Good day, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of the HJC Podcast. We've doubled our content. We now have 2 episodes. Joining me this week is Sunday's writer, Steve. Hey, Steve.
What's up, guys?
And back by popular demand because he did such a good job last week, Monday's writer, Sean. Hey, Sean.
Hey, I'm glad to be back.
All right. Let's get right into it. And the biggest story of the week for HJC-wise, the HJC exclusive story, the Team USA Olympic jersey, blue Olympic jersey, popping up. This one,
jersey.
very interesting. It had the, call it triangular print on the sleeve. Steve, what did you think of the jersey when you first saw it?
I thought what I've always thought about Nike trying to get into hockey. They think that they can put some of their soccer knowledge into a hockey jersey when about 99% of the time it doesn't work.
Yeah, I wonder if half the thing was that the games are going to be in the middle of the night, at least in the Eastern time zone, for a lot of the people in the U.S. watching. So the TV numbers should be way down because of that. I wonder if they decided to take this opportunity to try something different.
I just don't understand. I mean, like, I looked at what they had with, what they did for what USA Soccer was going to wear if they ran to the World Cup. But, that was a great design. And then they come up with this, and I'm just like,
Sean, what did you think seeing the U.S. jersey?
My one and only hope is that what's happening with this jersey is we're going to see something done with the gear to make this work. We'll get something to what we see with Nashville's current home jersey, whereas on its own, the jersey is really plain and boring, but you get gear involved and it looks all right. That's my only hope. I don't mind the triangular striping at all, like if you can call it striping, that is. But the hem's completely blank. The USA script has, no numbers on it. There's no striping underneath it. There's no outline to it. There's no shoulder patch.
Yeah, I would like to see a little more character added. Maybe the TV numbers go up on the shoulders. That's where Nike usually puts them. But maybe they're a little bit larger, like a Stadium Series game. And I think it's going to have to be some sort of specialized font. You can't just go standard block font on those jerseys.
I agree completely with that. I don't want to see some sort of angled, and that might be, honest to goodness, what we get is some like this angled font. No, like the shoulders stay completely blank. There's not even stars on them. This is what weirds me out a little bit, is that they're not going for what we saw in 2014 with those sublimated patterns. Yeah.
Who is one of the leading players to play on the U.S. team? I haven't even looked at possible roster players.
Brian Giunta.
Brian Giunta. Did he accept, or do we know? Or
he's been offered a role, to what I know. To the extent of it is unsure, but similar to Canada, they're relying on guys who are in the AHL with NHL experience.
Right. Is Ryan Malone still in the league? He had a PTO this preseason, didn't he?
Yeah.
I
believe that was Minnesota.
He didn't make it, did he?
No.
So I wonder if he'll be on the team. Anyway, so it's certainly a unique design. If you haven't seen our story, go to the blog, hockeyjerseyconcepts.com. Find the story. So far, no one else has covered it. It's just Hockey Jersey Concepts. And take a look, leave some comments, let us know what you think about the jersey. We'll move on to north of the border now. Team Canada. A little bit of news. Apparently this week, Team Canada management, headed by Sean Burke, met with Jerome Iginla's people, and no word came out of that on whether or not Iginla is going to play in the Olympics. What do you think, Sean? You expect to see Jerome Iginla there?
I expect to see him there. I don't know if it's the best decision if this is the guy that we're going to go after. His if this were a year ago, I could totally see it, but his numbers with LA last year were pitiful at best. He really seemed to have hit a wall. Unlike a guy like Yager, who's just, the numbers have been progressively getting slower, but he's still 60 points. Iginla's far off the top of his game at this point. But again, with no NHLers, the best you got are either the really young AHLers or over-the-hill NHLers.
Yeah, we're expecting to see Derek Roy there, Max Talbot, Mason Raymond, Ben Scrivens. No other names are coming to mind right now. But how about you, Steve? Do you think Iginla is going to play at the Olympics?
I'm going to say yeah, because he's getting to that point in his career where is not going to have many more of these opportunities.
Yeah.
And I think that would just be more beneficial for him to go than follow what the NHL says and say, we're not going to send any of our players. I don't really think it's fair to them that they don't get to represent their country if they want to. So if he wants to do it, by all means go ahead. But for Canada, I'm not sure, honestly, if that would have been their first pick. So
Yeah. And it'll be interesting because I believe I read something or heard something that Team Canada management wants players that are playing on some sort of team to be in the Olympics, because back in the 2005 World Championships, when the NHL lost a complete season to the lockout, there were some players that went to the World Championships that had not been playing all year, and it was painfully obvious who those people were. So I don't think they want to go through that again. Like, I don't think they'd be inviting Iginla if he was just working out and then his first serious games were going to be at the Olympics. So it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. We did get to see their logo this week. They have some merchandise out now with the Olympic logo that they'll be using. Are we going to see some classic jerseys, or do you think it's going to be a crazy design just like the States, Steve?
I don't know with Canada. I really don't. It's like 1 year they're fairly traditional with like maybe a little bit more of a twist, and then all of a sudden they give you something out from left field, i.e. the large black yoke that they have with the sublimated maple leafs. I just never found that attractive, but I really do hope that it's a little more subtle than what they did, because I really did like what they did in 2010, but just the year back in 2014 where they tried to do the waist stripe type thing,
it was a little off.
Yeah.
And I wonder who has more of a say in this instance, whether it's Nike, whether it's Hockey Canada, as to the design of the jersey. Obviously, it's probably created a year ago. I mean, there's nothing you can do at this point, but it'll be interesting to see what they come out with. Sean, what are you expecting from Team Canada at the Olympics jersey-wise?
I'm expecting something similar to what we've seen from the U.S. so far, based on the fact that Canada's jerseys were unique to the 2014 Olympics. They didn't fall in the same steps as the U.S., say, Slovakia, and Germany in that regard. At the same time, I think that Hockey Canada has taken some steps to move away from those sort of designs, and I think that we're in for something relatively simple. I do think we're going to see, rather than black, we're going to see gold and the darker red being used.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just your guys' opinion. We obviously don't know. We're not privy to the information. But who do you think has more of a say in the jersey creation, Nike or Hockey Canada? Because the way I see it, I would have to think Nike comes up with a bunch of designs, and then Hockey Canada simply says yay or nay. Sean?
I would think Nike would, because I have a feeling that Hockey Canada comes forward with a design similar to what Reebok told the Stars in 2007, and Nike shoots back and says, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do. Then on the flip side, after that, Nike produces these designs, and then Hockey Canada chooses.
Mm-hmm. Steve, how do you see that transaction going down?
I see it as someone at Team Canada Hockey calling Nike saying this is what we want, make some variations of it. So someone probably has a basis of an idea of what they want, and then Nike starts to create numerous designs around it, and then they just end up going from there.
All right. Well, let's jump over to the NHL beat now. And Sean, you'll be able to jump in on this, because the Winnipeg Jets, and namely their goaltender that they went and spent some money on, Steve Mason. Well, let's start with the Jets. All the problems that were there last year are still there after 3 or 4 games. Taking penalties, goaltending, a little bit of defensive play. But looking at Steve Mason's stats, 100 minutes, 11 goals against, 656 goals against average, 831 save percentage. It's probably worst case scenario for him right now. Sean, in your world, is the world ending because Winnipeg's goaltending, Steve Mason wise, is not holding up right now?
the world isn't ending in Winnipeg because the scoring is that good and Connor Hellebuck can play. The world's ending in the regards that the number of guys that Winnipeg passed up on to take Steve Mason, namely guys like Brian Elliott or even a guy like Mike Smith, they could have went out and got this. They instead spent their money on a wildly inconsistent goaltender who is about a decade off from his best play. In short, if you wanted to keep Pavlik, you should have kept Pavlik.
Yeah, and you also have to wonder if maybe some goalies stepped in and said, I don't want to go to Winnipeg. Because let's face it, Winnipeg in the middle of January probably isn't the most fun place to be. Steve, from your perspective, Winnipeg goaltending, from my perspective, I mean, that probably looks worst case scenario. And maybe I'm already looking to move on from Steve Mason. How do you see it coming out of Winnipeg?
I see that Winnipeg kind of shot themselves in the foot right now. But I don't think right now is the point where you say jump ship with him. I say you still have to feel him out. It's only 3 games. I mean, like Sean said, they do have good scorers. It's just they chose Steve Mason, a guy who's been bounced around so much. I mean, I like him, but it's just he's been bounced around so much, and then like he'll do good, and then all of a sudden he'll just die off, and then he gets traded, and then he does good and he dies off, and you have to start wondering how much of a toll is that taking on him as a person, being sent out to a new team every 2-3 years, saying, here, do a job for us. We're not going to make you our franchise goalie. We're just going to have you until we can find someone.
Well, that's how people find themselves out of the league, because they can't do the job. And right now he's not doing the job. You'd have to think that this might be his last go-around if he can't at least prove to be a reliable backup at this point. This could be his last go-around.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Let's move out west now. One of the bigger stories in the NHL is Vegas off to a hot start. At the time of this recording, 3-0. But the big note would be the ceremony for the home opener, which I thought was really well done, when they acknowledged first responders, and then accompanying them was a player. I thought it was an outstanding ceremony. Really made the connection with Las Vegas, made them an integral part of that community, and really endeared themselves to the people. Steve, what'd you think? Did you catch the ceremony, and just some thoughts on it?
I did catch some of it. Being someone who has family of histories of first responders, my brother is a police officer, my father was a police officer, my father-in-law is a former firefighter. It's tremendously respectful, and I really enjoyed that and how they went about it. It was very first class of some team to do, and the fact that they did that in their opening night really showed that not only are they there to compete to win, but they're showing as, we're not here just because we won. We're here because we deserve it.
Yeah.
So, and I think their class act truly shows that they deserve it.
Sean, did you catch the ceremony, and just what were your thoughts on how Vegas handled it, and how they endeared themselves to the community?
I thought it was really well done. I thought that it was the right thing to do. Getting the Vegas native amongst the players to make a speech was a fantastic idea. The first responders was very, very well thought out, and it's a great way for Vegas. This is Vegas's first professional team. This is a great way for them to make their mark on the community. On top of the hot start they're having, everything seems to be coming together for this team so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Short term, right from the hop, everything looks good. And that's what you can hope. That's the best you can hope for an expansion team. Now, on Friday, they did unveil their new mascot, Chance. Is that his name? Chance? The dinosaur? So, I don't know what it's super kid-friendly, but I don't know what Chance has to do with Golden Knights. Just really quickly, if you saw it, Steve, what did you think of Chance, the dinosaur?
Made me think of that 90s television show, Dinosaurs. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Do you remember the dad looked like John Goodman from Roseanne?
Yeah. That's fantastic.
That's what it reminds me of. But
that would be great if someone had a mascot where it's like he's been wearing the same shirt since 91 and now it's a little short, so his gut's sticking out and he's kind of just crawling around the stadium because he can't move around as quickly anymore. That would be a really great mascot. Really great for the adults, not so kid friendly.
Yeah, but I don't know, because I heard somewhere that every time you try and use a knight for a mascot, like, it doesn't end up well. Like, the last professional team to do that was the Brooklyn Nets, and it was just universally canned. Everybody hated it. So.
Mascots can be tricky things, right? As soon as look at Edmonton's that lynx, that cat, that thing's ridiculous. So
I missed the original mascot for the Avs,
which was
cool.
What was the original mascot for the Avs?
Don't you remember? It looked like a Bigfoot.
No, I never saw that.
You don't remember it?
No. We'll have to.
The coolest thing.
We'll have to find an image and tweet it out or something. Never seen that. That's pretty cool though. Let's go to one of my favorite segments. It's the HJC Mailbag. All right, and our first question comes from our very own former writer, still assistant contributor guy, Brendan P. And he actually asked a question of me first. What's it like being an admin? It's super awesome. Thank you for asking. He's got more questions. What's your weekly process like, or any other admin things that you want to mention? How do I pick the concepts that go into each post? And how do I choose which writer gets what concepts? I was wondering when this question would come in. So pretty much the process is built on how I used to do it when it was just me writing for the blog back in 2000. I guess the last time I wrote was July of 2012 on a daily basis. So all the concepts would come in, and then I take 10% of the total concepts and then times it by, it used to be 5 days a week and now it's 6 days a week. So it pretty much just works out that 10% of the total concepts that are waiting get posted in a day. And as to which writer gets which concept, for the most part, it just goes in order. But if there's a certain writer that is going to tend to react a certain way to a certain concept, it might get bumped a day later or a day earlier, just for the reader's entertainment. And and then as far as the weekly process, I record the podcast on Friday, count votes. Sean's assistant admin, so right now he's counting concept of the week nominations and secondings and thirdings and etc. And then I pretty much spend all my Friday night, instead of being out, home, doing HJC stuff. Brendan had a second question. This is for everyone. What's your personal favorite hockey experience, whether it be playing or as a fan or anything? Sean, do you have a favorite hockey experience?
At the start of the 2011-12 season, seeing Winnipeg's first regular season game back in Toronto, having the Toronto fans give Winnipeg a standing ovation to welcome them back, and watching them win the game.
Steve, favorite hockey experience?
Honestly, probably knowing the guy who plays Iceberg.
That's cool.
And I was only going to say because when I took those pictures for this past season with Iceberg around the Stadium Series time,
mm-hmm.
I actually caught up with him after not seeing him for like 12 years. So that's what really fuels me, is that he just remembers me after all these years. So
that's pretty cool. Personally, I have lots of hockey memories. I'll do a couple quick ones. Went to my first hockey game when I was just turned 5, just turned 6. Toronto, Detroit. There's actually a clip on YouTube. Check out Toronto, Detroit, 1989. And Leafs player Rob Ramage got high-sticked and was bleeding, was out for the rest of the game. Anyways, I was so happy to go see my first Maple Leafs game that the next day I went to school and told all the students in my class that I invited the Maple Leafs to my house for lunch, and they were coming to my house for lunch that day. So that's one of my personal favorite hockey moments. And then another one is playing basic house league hockey, 16 years old. We were down 5-1 heading into the third period, and we tied it up 5-5 and ended up winning 6-5 in overtime to win the house league championship that year. So those are two kind of fun memories for me. And our last question comes in from a reader, David H., and he wants to know, who would you pick in these situations, Crosby or McDavid? And who would you pick to win one game? And who would you pick to build a franchise around? Sean?
To win a game, now I'd pick McDavid. To build a franchise around, anytime I would have picked Crosby.
Even now when he's 30?
Yes.
All right. Steve, Penguins fan, what's your answer?
I'd have to agree with Sean because Crosby, he's basically done it all. So if I had the opportunity to build a franchise around him, I would do so. But to win one game, I would call on Connor McDavid.
Very interesting. I would build a franchise around. I'm building around McDavid because he's 20, and I think he's going to get better. To win one game, I'd go with either of them. I mean, you got to go with Crosby because he's won 3 Stanley Cups, 4 Stanley Cup Finals, 2 gold medals, blah blah blah. But that one's a tough one. Okay, I'm just going to go out. I'm going to pick McDavid for both of them because it seems that the answers are built towards one or the other player, whereas franchise would be built towards McDavid and one game would be built towards Crosby. But I'm going to take Crosby on both of those. McDavid on both of those, just to make it interesting. Anyways,